As a real estate investor, it's a small circle in your market and community, and your reputation is the most important thing you have. This business isn't just about getting leads, making offers, and flipping houses. Real estate is and always will be a people business, and people do business with people they like and trust. And time again, flippers are willing to compromise ethics, morals, and integrity to make an extra buck, which is short-sighted and will only hurt them in the long run. So if you're currently an active flipper, it's time to take a litmus test and see how you stack up. And if you're an aspiring flipper, on this video, you'll learn my 6 ethical rules to wholesaling and flipping real estate with high integrity. Coming up. Hi, it's Jerry Norton, and recently I was reading posts on a popular wholesaling Facebook group, and I was astonished by how many complaints I saw about misconduct taking place in the wholesaling and real estate flipping industry. As a full-time flipper for 15 years, I've seen it all, and because of the foul play that goes on, the wholesaling and flipping industry often gets a bad rap. As the nation's leading expert on flipping houses, even if that is self-proclaimed, I feel an obligation to inform, educate, and challenge our industry to flip houses with higher morals, ethics, and integrity. And I believe there are 6 ethical laws to wholesaling that I want to cover on this video. But first, if we've never met, I'm Jerry Norton, and this channel is dedicated to helping you make money right now in real estate, not later in 10 or 20 years, or even 3 to 5 years, but right now so that you can achieve true financial freedom and live your dream life. Consider subscribing to my channel and click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. If you're going to operate in this industry or in any industry, you have an obligation to not only comply with the law, but to be ethical as well. And let's face it, there's a difference between legal and ethical standards. Legal standards are set forth, regulated, and enforced by the government. Ethical standards are based on the principles of right and wrong. In real estate, legal is, did you get it in writing? Ethical is it the right thing to do? For example, a few years ago, I met an elderly woman in her 80s who signed a contract to sell her home to a wholesaler. When the wholesaler told her she had 3 weeks to move out, the elderly woman said she did not understand what she signed and did not know that she agreed to sell her house and had nowhere to go. Now, whether the wholesaler tricked her into signing or she just didn't understand or maybe even had second thoughts, that isn't the point. Legally, the wholesaler has a written contract that can be enforced, but morally and ethically, he should not force her to sell and kick her to the curb. I've heard it said this way: the law sets minimum standards of behavior, while ethics sets maximum standards. With wholesaling, you interact with private sellers and possible agents, as well as cash buyer investors. With fix and flip, you have even more interactions: agents, contractors, money investors. But on this video, I'm gonna focus specifically on wholesaling. So here are the 6 ethical rules to wholesaling houses. Ethical rule number 1 is when working with cash buyers, always disclose who you are in the transaction. Now, there are 4 possible scenarios. Number 1, you own the property, which means you purchased it and you now hold title. Number 2, you own the contract. Number 3, you don't have the contract yet, but you're working closely with the seller. Now, this is common for wholesalers who want to know they have a cash buyer first before locking up the deal with the seller. Now, this is tricky for the wholesaler because the seller could contract with someone else. Number 4, it's not your deal, it's another investor's deal. This is known as joint venturing or co-wholesaling. Now, any of those 4 scenarios is fine. Here's where the ethics comes in. As a wholesaler, be honest with your cash buyers. Tell them your role that you play in the deal. Look, I buy a lot of deals from wholesalers. I have a nationwide finder program where I'll pay $10,000 for people to find and bring deals to me. As a cash buyer, I don't care. I just want to know who I'm dealing with and your involvement in the deal. When a wholesaler tells me it's their deal when they don't own the contract, I lose all trust. Ethical rule number 2. This is a common one. Never go around another wholesaler. If a motivated seller contacts you to sell their home and you're competing with other investors, that's one thing. But if you find out about a deal from another wholesaler working with a motivated seller, and then you go around that wholesaler directly to the seller and you try and cut out the wholesaler, that is unethical. How would you feel if someone did that to you? Ethical rule number 3, once committed to a cash buyer, never go with a higher offer. As a wholesaler, if you commit in any way, even verbally, to sell a deal to a cash buyer, Don't go back on your word. I had one of my elite mentoring students in California call me and say, Jerry, I committed over the phone to assign my contract to a cash buyer, but then immediately after I got an offer from a different cash buyer for $25,000 more. What do? I told him, you honor the first cash buyer. I said, your integrity is worth more than $25,000. Even though legally he could have flipped it to the higher buyer, the right thing to do is to honor your word. Ethical rule number 4, don't fudge the numbers. It's common for wholesalers to provide all of the numbers such as after repair value with comps and repair costs. Don't inflate the numbers to justify your asking price. Nothing will kill your integrity faster than giving inflated, unrealistic, and even bogus numbers. I have several wholesalers who I will no longer even look at their deals because I don't believe or trust any of their numbers. And they know what they're doing, so the fact that they're willing to be dishonest about the numbers is enough for me not to want to work with them. Ethical rule number 5, don't strategically renegotiate with sellers. There's a tactic that some wholesalers use where they strategically offer a much higher price to a seller than they are willing to pay just to get the contract. Then once they have the contract, usually right before closing, they go back to the seller and they try to renegotiate, usually claiming it's due to repairs. The idea is that the seller will be willing to come down on price just to close rather than wait to find another buyer. Now, it's one thing if you have a due diligence period and you have an inspection and you find things you legitimately didn't know about and you need to renegotiate. I'm talking about strategically hiring an offer with the intent to renegotiate at the last minute. That's unethical. Ethical rule number 6, don't strategically back out of contracts. Another tactic that some wholesalers use is to get contracts with long inspection clauses like 10 days without knowing if they're good deals. Then shopping those contracts to find cash buyers during the due diligence period, and if they don't get a buyer, simply back out of the contracts. Now let me clarify, there's nothing wrong with exercising your due diligence and backing out of a contract. That's why you have due diligence. But backing out of a contract should always be your last resort and never intentional. The worst thing that can happen is you get a reputation for backing out of contracts, especially with agents. I once got a contract from an agent who I had bought a lot of deals from. After getting the contract, I found out I had overpaid for it. I ended up wholesaling it for a negative $2,500. Now, I could have backed out of the contract, but I didn't want to lose rapport with the agent, so I did the deal anyway and lost $2,500. My relationship and reputation as someone who always closes on deals is 1,000 times more valuable than $2,500. Listen, I can't possibly cover all of the ways to be honest and ethical. In all of your interactions, ask yourself, if the roles were reversed, would I want this to happen to me? Now, I'd love to hear from you what other ethical rules need to be added to this list. Leave a comment and let me know. Remember 2 Chronicles 15:7, which says, take courage, do not let your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and like this video. And if you want to make more money in less time flipping houses so that you can live your dream life, subscribe to my channel. Click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. Be sure to watch this next video where I explain how to create a win-win situation when working with motivated sellers. On this video, I show you how to help a private seller decide if they want a cash buyer or a retail buyer and how you can get paid helping them do the best thing for their situation. And remember, it's not about the money. It's about having the time and freedom to be, do, have, and give everything you want in life. That's what it's all about, and I'll see you on the next video.